Alright YouTube, how's it going? Welcome back to the channel. Today guys, we'll be talking about the tier list for the month of May, and this is for post-Revive Legion. The new selection pack got us the new Horus archetype, which is another good engine as well for rogue decks. It got a lot better for rogue. You'll be seeing more rogue decks here than usual. You have new Salamangreat support, so Salamangreat is a little bit better now. You also have the new Memento archetype, which is kind of cool, but they still lack some of the recent cards from the Infinite Forbidden, which hopefully we'll get in the near future. So our tier list is just basically tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, rogue, and then contenders are typically decks that can go up against the higher tier decks with the current format. And lastly, playable decks that you can just play it out just for fun. Regardless, let us start. So first and foremost, we have here Altergeist. Now I'm gonna put Altergeist here as a rogue deck. There are some gonna be awkward moments where you're not gonna get the cards that you'll basically need. Although the new supports made Altergeist a little bit better, there are some times where your hand is not gonna be like pretty good. Branded, I'm gonna put this one on tier 3. For a couple of months now, Branded is still like, you know, top tier decks. Really good deck. The grind game is not like Snake Eyes, but they can still impact the game with just the cards that you're dealt with. Cyber Dragon. So Cyber Dragons, why I put this one here is because of the Horus. I would say they're not even a really good contender. It got a little bit better because of the Horus engine though. Dinos. I'm gonna put Dinos as rogue. With or without the new supports, it's still the same. Dinos are still Dinos. Pretty hard with the current meta. You know, hand drops are really the most issue with the dinos. Black Wings, playable, I would say. We're still really good, but going second, you're gonna have a hard time. Same as Dark World. Colorless was a little bit off. I don't want to use the original Rainbow. Dark Corridor was a little bit better, but nevertheless, Danger Dark Worlds is the way to play Dark Worlds, and they are basically playable with the current format. Then we have Evil or Live Twins. Yeah, this deck is kind of good. A really good contender, especially with the sprites. And that's the only way you could go up against higher tier decks, just because of the sprite. Then we have the Chimeras. Chimeras, I would say branded Chimeras are a good variant, but the pure Chimera build is a lot better. You always have consistent cards on hand that you can dispose of with a copy of Droplet or even a copy of Super Poly, which is kind of good as well. Dinomorpheus. Dinomorpheus are typically tier 3 decks as well. Going first or going second. Going first, you're basically gonna win the game there. Infernoble, I would say they are really good contenders. There is a strong variant for Infernobles, having to splash Mekanko in it. If you're gonna run like a pure version, maybe it's just Rogue, but with the Mekankos, it's a really good contender, depending on how you play the deck. Gold Pride, I would say, really good playable deck. The reason for this is because you need like lower life points than your opponent to spell summon or to gain access to the full abilities of your monster. So it's hard with the current meta. It's basically playable. Then we have Kashtiras. Kashtiras are good. It's not half bad as an engine, I would say. The 2 copies of Unicorn was kind of harsh, but the Birth was kind of good on 2 copies as well. So I'm just gonna put this one on Rogue. They are really impactful in some of the games. Labyrinth, tier 2 deck. Just gonna put this one on tier 2 basically. It's still a really good deck, still really reliable, really strong deck against the meta. Horus, I would say they are a really good contender, but so far, stun variant, they are very much winnable. Vanadium, really good tier 3 deck. Still really powerful though. Going first, you have a tendency to summon the Calamity, which is a basic win. And going second, you're gonna have a hard time, but depending on the board, it's mostly like a 50-50 chance for this deck. Heroes, I'm gonna say this is Rogue. I can't say it's a good contender. If you know the choke point for heroes, then you basically can cut them off and then just let them settle with just a mediocre board. But I'm just being safe. I'm just gonna put this one on Rogue. Exosisters, typically Rogue here. Although you have the shifter accessible to you and a lot of slots in your deck or your hand traps, which is good. Going second, it's gonna be hard for this deck, and even with your board breakers, they are still gonna be capable enough to stop you with your combos. Mariensis, practically Rogue. PK with a new Horus engine is still a really good deck. Basically Rogue, I can say. Same as Orcus, and Well, just Orcos and Phantom Knights are really good now because of the new Horus engine. Mathmex, good tier 3 deck, maybe close to Chimeras. The only downside for this is if ever you're going up against decks that cuts your resources out, then it's going to be game over for you. If they survive like the second turn after you set up your board with the firewall monster, then you're basically like done for the next turn. Memento, really good rogue deck, I would say. Maybe it will change after a while when we'll get the 2 new cards from the Infinite Forbidden. But as of now, Memento is still like a really good rogue deck. Rescue Ace, tier 1 back row decks are really formidable, like Labyrinth. Mikankos, I would say, really good tier 2 deck. I think I'm just being too generous with Mikanko if I'm gonna put them on tier 2. Even if you're running a pure version for Mikankos, they are gonna be really strong. But the strong version that I mentioned earlier with the Infernobles are a lot better. If you're going second, you're just gonna play it out with your Mikanko cards. If you're going first, you're gonna play it out with your Infernoble cards, which is kinda good as well. A really balanced deck, I would say, but it takes a really good pilot for this to happen. Purely's tier 2 deck, the new Little Noir will gain you access to your trap card in all of your combos, so that's really insane. Plus, you basically can draw like 4 cards or more during your opponent's turn, which is kind of good. Punks, I would say it is a good rogue deck. Now, the reason why I'm going to put this one here rather than putting this on playable is because Punks doesn't really rely with low life points to gain access to most of their effects. Curious, I would say, as a pure version, it's not really good. But I've seen some better versions where you can run Horus into it. Like everything here nowadays, you basically just splash the Horus engine and they will be really good. Super Heavy, the 1 copy of Soul Piercer was so crazy. I think I'm gonna put this on Rogue. The 1 copy of Soul Piercer kind of nerfed the deck a little bit. Sky Strikers, really good rogue deck, I would say. Salamangrates. Recursion and out-resource your opponent is the main goal for Salamangrates, but I'm gonna put this one on Rogue just to be safe. Grind Game is good for Salamangrates, but it takes a good pilot for this to actually work. Now that with the new supports, maybe beside, top of Rogue, close to tier 3. Then we have Runic. So Runic, basically playable. Another version for it is you apply the Horus engine into it. Resonators, rogue deck still needs a good pilot. I'm gonna put this one here, I guess. Yeah, around here. Yeah. Snake Eyes, tier 1, of course. No doubt about it. Yeah, maybe in a couple of months or so when we'll see more Snake Eyes or even Sinful cards into the ban list, that might change the deck. But as of now, there's still a really powerful deck alongside Rescue Ace or even higher than Rescue Ace. Scareclaw, rogue deck, I would say. Doesn't really matter. Rika's Contenders are a really good contender for the high tier decks, depending on how you are good with this deck. Sprites, also a good contender as well, depending on some other builds. The best version for this is with the Live Twins or Evil Twins. Sword Soul, rogue. Definitely rogue. It's hard to actually play this deck out. You basically need like 1.5 or 2 combos just to make your board, and even with that, you'll have like a board. I would say it's mediocre, but it's average board with just 1 or 2 combos. Tier Elements, tier 3 deck, really nice, especially with a new Horus. I'm gonna put this one maybe here though. Yeah, maybe here. Unchained, I would say Unchained are here, close to Mikanko and Branded. They're really strong though. They're still really strong. Zodiac's playable deck. Vanquished Soul, tier 3, I can say. Needs a good pilot. It's actually unpredictable if ever you're gonna use Vanquished Soul. So if your opponent doesn't know how this deck works, then you're basically winning against him. Trap Checks, rogue deck. Basically rogue deck. Yeah, I'm just gonna arrange this properly. Maybe around these parts right here. Scareclaw here. There, and then Sword Soul, maybe, yeah. I think that's understandable. Tri Brigade, as a pure, it's practically playable, but another good version for this is with the sprites. It might go rogue. Synchros, rogue deck. And that's basically it. So far so good. I think I got a little bit more strict with tier 1 and tier 2. Some other things that I can do here is put Mikangas on tier 2, possibly, and maybe Labyrinth on tier 1. But yeah, I'm just gonna settle with the ones that I already said earlier. So that is basically your tier list for the month of May, post Revive Legion. So tell me your thoughts on the tier list. Do you want to change anything? If so, tell me in the comment section below, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Like and subscribe, and goodbye.